If you hear the word diabetes, what comes to your mind?
The hell my brother-in-law went through about 20 years ago. He lost his sight. He ended up twice a day having to do kidney lavage, and lost his leg from his knee down, piece at a time. And that was just scary. That's where I go.
And what about you, Mike? If you hear the word, what do you think of?
The only contact I'd ever had with diabetes was I had a second cousin in Athens. Went into diabetic shock unknowingly, unbeknownst to anybody, and died before she could get a diagnosis. And she was a student at OU at the time, and actually was homecoming queen. Jan Reeder was her name. This was back probably 40 years ago at least. Other than that, I really hadn't had any contact with anybody who had it. I was not aware of anyone in my immediate family that had it. But you know, that's my only brush with it up until I got the diagnosis this year.
Okay, so tell me about that. How did that happen?
Well, it was I was going through several different health issues that I didn't know quite what to think of. My distance vision started to get fuzzy. I was having to go to the bathroom 10, 12, 15 times a day. Numbness and tingling in my soles of my feet. And I had read and heard enough about diabetes over the years that I thought, might be a problem here. So went to primary care, and they pulled a whole bunch of blood out of me and ran the whole panel of tests, and lo and behold, my sugar came back at like 297, and my A1C was 11.7. And Dr. Barcelona said, "You have a problem." So they immediately put me on a restricted diet and gave me initially 500 milligrams of metformin twice a day. Well, that brought the sugar down to around 200. So after several weeks of that, he kicked it up to 1,000 milligrams twice a day on the metformin. And ever since then, my sugar has been staying really in good shape, and my A1C, the last time they checked it at Primary Plus, it was 5.8. So it's staying in good control as of right now. And the side benefit is I've lost a lot of weight. I wanted to lose weight. In fact, I had started myself on a diet back in January as a sort of a bet with a friend of mine. I had been on him for years to quit smoking, and he'd been on me for years to lose weight. I said, "All right, if you quit smoking, I'll lose 20 pounds. Well, he did quit smoking, so I started on my diet and lost the 20, and then it kept on going. And then when I got the diabetes diagnosis, Casey Cluxton put me on a, not a real rigid diet, but she gave me some guidelines to follow. And the weight has just been coming off. And as of this morning, I've lost a total of 63 pounds.
Wow.
So
Are you still going?
I have 27 more to reach my goal. So, and my goal is to get down to 220. I was 309 when I started. So that's been a side benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling better. My knees and feet like me a lot better. I'm able to do more work in the garage, and so that's been a bonus.
What type of work do you do?
I just putter around cars. I'm retired, but I've always got to have a project of some sort going with the automobiles.
So are you a mechanic, or are you just a...
Shade tree mechanic, yeah.
They're the best kind.
I've built engines over the years. I used to race a lot when I was younger, and I've built various race engines, and I still, in fact, I just put an engine together here a few years ago for a 27 Roadster that I'm redoing for myself. I bought it from a guy done, but it wasn't done very well, so I'm rebuilding the whole darn thing.
And has another one on the lift.
And I got another project on the lift, a 47 Chevy, that's going to be turned into a rat rod. So
Sounds exciting.
It's fun.
Anita knows what those are about. But
So Lynn, what's been your experience with diabetes?
Well, as I said, my brother-in-law primarily. Other than that, you know, I am, thankfully, diabetes free. I don't have the problem, but I get to do the cooking, so that's been a lot of it. I've needed to change the way I cook, and I quit frying things years ago, but you know, you can still bread things and bake them, so the breading is now gone. Pots of rice have now dwindled down to 2 cups, and it's a change. You know, when I was raising my kids, there were 4 boys, and they ate like no tomorrow, and it didn't matter what they ate because they went out and ran it off. But it's become a lot different. And the sweeteners are a challenge because I enjoy baking. I've done a lot since the weather's been so hot. But that'll come. And they have the brown sugar Splenda that you can do things with. And I've gone from strictly white flour to wheat flour and soy flour. And in doing cookies, almond flour is really great because that cuts out a lot of the sweetener. You don't need it. Pasta is cut back to about once a week and 1 small serving. And I've gotten, I used to put things on the table and we would dish up from the table. The only thing that goes on the table now are the vegetables. The rest of it's dished up at the stove. And
It's working though.
it is. It is. It's working very well. He's doing much better than I am.
So I wanted to ask you, how has his needs changed your patterns?
I too have cut back. Don't eat a sandwich unless it's done with the little sandwich rounds. And working, I used to put a sandwich together and off to work I'd go. And a lot of times it was peanut butter and jelly. You know, that's cut way back. So it's a change, but it's nothing that can't be dealt with. And you can, any recipe can be altered. You've got to, if it's something that needs sweetened, you need to make sure that the sweetener is one that doesn't fall apart when it's heated. And it's just, I love to cook, so this is a new challenge.
Excellent. So we've mainly talked so far about eating.
yeah,
And a little bit about what you do, but what I'd like to know a little bit more about is, what do you do to get the activity that you need?
working on the cars.
So for you that works.
That's my activity. Yeah, I'm up and down and around, crawling on the underneath and getting up, and you know, constantly on the move, back and forth to the house. So I get a fair amount of physical activity. Unfortunately, she has a somewhat sedentary job, and she doesn't get
Unfortunately.
as much physical activity as I do. We do need to reestablish our walking program
Yeah.
once it cools down a little bit.
But I cannot walk with him. He's 6'3" and walks hell-bent for leather. I am 5'7". I cannot keep up. You know. So I would much rather walk early in the morning or late in the evening. But evening is after supper, and it just doesn't sit well. The belly just flip-flops. So my biggest problem is walking in the morning. I already get up at 6, and I have to be on the road to work, which isn't very far. I work here in town, but I have to be at work at 7:30. So I do, at times, when it's not so hot, go and walk during the day around town. My job is bailiff, so I'm dressed in a sheriff's uniform, and people, they're either very friendly or very standoffish. So when I go out and walk, they, a lot of them, hi, how you doing? Others will sink back, and it's,
You have your uniform on.
I have my uniform on, yeah, oh yeah. And the people are quite friendly. And as to the walking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm going to give it a shot. What I would like to do, and I think it was either I said something to Anita or to Annie?
Yeah, at the extension office.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. I would like to get a walking club started. And I'm going to have to hit up the principal at the high school to begin with, because when the weather turns bad, and it's been too hot right now to walk, when the weather turns bad, then I'd like to see if we can walk inside. But in the meantime, walking around town, there's a beautiful track around. Just trek. You stop, you see the houses, and it takes you back to some of the plaques that are in town. You could read about them. Meeting over at the River Bend, the little restaurant that's over there, for coffee in the morning, and then get on and do the walk. And it's a mile and a half, I believe, the walk that we did before. And you know, if you can't make the whole way, you can cut back. But it would be fun. I would like to see if I can get it rolling. And I haven't as yet, and that's my fault partly.
Well, and fall's sometimes a good time to start
Yes.
thinking about that, because the weather's more comfortable, and until it gets frosty and snowy in the
Right.
wintertime.
Yeah,
Sometimes
the
if you got the
holidays
pattern
is-
by then, you can still endure quite a bit.
right.
Even in the winter, it's just not quite as pretty, but it's mild.
It's mild. It doesn't get bad here most of the time. January and February usually worse than anything else.
Now, have you all, I know you've been part of the Diabetes Coalition, and so let me ask you, how has that helped you? How has that been a benefit for you?
I think it's been great myself, because we've learned an awful lot about how to take care of ourselves, how to cook, how to exist with this disease, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be a death sentence. And that was my big concern when I first got the diagnosis was, oh my God, I'm going to die. You know, well, you don't have to die. If you take care of yourself, do the right things, you can live with this disease, keep it under control. And so the things I've learned there has been a big help in my overall mental outlook. Because I'll be honest with you, is that article that I wrote for the paper, when I first got the diagnosis, I went through a pretty good state of depression. You know, I thought, oh my God, why me? I'm going to die. Life is never going to be the same. Is it going to be worth living? Blah, 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 blah. Well, she put up with me for about 6 weeks.
That was it.
She finally had had enough. And she says, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to kill you, bring you back to life, and kill you again.
And it worked. I snapped out of it. But it was the amount of food and what he could eat. it was killing him. And all of a sudden, that was it. He
Well, when I
finally
started,
came out of it.
yeah, when I finally started to see the weight come off at a fairly rapid pace, I thought, well, this may not be so bad,
And the sugar.
And the sugar numbers came down.
Yeah.
So you immediately encouraged.
Yeah, and so like I said, my sugar's been staying right around 100 on average. Below sometimes, a little above. Like this morning it was 115, but we had a big dinner last night up at Caproni's for her birthday, so I wasn't surprised that my sugar was up a little bit this morning.
But his weight was down.
But my weight was
So
down, so I lost another pound yesterday. So,
Hey.
yeah.
So if you could give a message to people who maybe have diabetes or are concerned about preventing it, why should they come and be part of the coalition?
I think the biggest message that I would like to see people get out of all of this is that it, again, like I said, it does not have to be a death sentence. And if you suspect that you have a problem, get in, get it checked. Because if it's caught early enough and treated properly, it hopefully will never get to the point where you start losing limbs and eyesight and all the other bad things that can happen. So, I had several calls from people congratulating me on that article that I put in the paper. And they said, why did you do that? And I said, well, listen, if it will help one person, just one person, go get themselves checked and maybe get treated in time so that this disease doesn't have to kill them, then will have been worth the effort.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think folks should come to the
Camaraderie.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too.
People that know what you're going through, that can help you through it. We had no clue what was going on. And Casey was great, gave us the instruction, but she wasn't right there. I can send Anita a note and get a note back post-haste. And
answers to questions?
Answers to questions that, what the heck do I do now? So she's been a help.
One of the things, before I ask you that, I know you're also taking part in the Dining with Diabetes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's the best part of that program?
I'd say it's surprising. It's surprising how satisfied you can feel after one of those meals, because when they set the plate in front of you, you look at it, that's never going to fill me up. But yet, when we go out of there, we're satisfied. So I guess that was the biggest surprise for me, was seeing just how little of food you really need to be satisfied.
And what's the main thing for
Well,
teaching?
that, as well as new recipes. The recipes are always printed out for us. I have tried a couple. Anita gave me another website to go to with 9,000 diabetic recipes. I'm going, yes.
So you're kind of trying some new things.
I haven't had a big chance yet. I'm going to do some
9,000's
shopping.
a couple of years of work, I think.
At least. But Dining with Diabetes, again, the camaraderie, the lesson that Casey gives you on what is happening and what to watch for, how to go about it, is a help. It's really, it's a lot of fun being over there.
Mm-hmm.
Because other people are going through the same thing you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, what we're aiming to do is, certainly help people who have the disease prevent complications and manage the disease better. But we're also focusing, primarily on preventing the disease. It's even better to prevent it, so people never get it. And we have a lot of concerns about young children that might be overweight or obese. I just wonder what the two of you see in the community.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah. I am a sub cook at school cafeterias, and it's downright scary what goes in those pots. They try and do what they can for the kids, and there is, if a child is diabetic, the cafeteria is notified, and there's always something good for them to eat, something nutritious and healthy that they can eat. But the other kids, it's just, they're little butterballs.
Yeah.
And the things that they get are not as nutritious as they need to be. But then they go home and get the same thing at home.
Or worse.
Because the parents don't know. They don't understand. They have never been taught. Kids are obese nowadays. My granddaughter is 13. She's 5'5" and weighs 180 pounds. That's scary for me, because there is heart disease in my family. And I just, unfortunately, they're too far away for me to do a great deal about it. My son and daughter, ex-daughter-in-law, Dana, has got Skylar. So I can't do anything unless she's with me, and the week or two every year that I have her is just not enough. Mm-hmm. Children don't know. They eat what's put in front of them, and they want more. So mom loads up the plate, and they eat more. And
When they go through the drive-thru at Mickey D's,
right,
the Happy Meal.
Right. And then they're sedentary in front of the TV,
Yeah.
or in front of the computer, or Xbox, or whatever.
That's one of the biggest things that's hurting our young generation is the
Absolutely.
video games. They're just not out playing anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be, years ago, if you told a kid he couldn't go out to play, you were punishing him.
Now they
What's the
cheer.
punishment if you
If you send him out.
Yes.
Because you're taking him away from his computer or his Xbox.
Yeah, when Skylar's with me, she gets to be on the computer, but she has to earn her time on the computer, because most of the time when she's here, it's during the summer. We're out in the garden pulling weeds and doing what have you. So she gets a little exercise out there with me, and it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But then she's back on the computer. I drag her around.
What can we do to change things? What can we do to get some of these old things that were good back into our lives again?
That is something that we've talked a lot about. I'm not sure. I mean, it's got to be education, but how do you get the word to people that don't want to hear it? And that's one of the biggest problems, because today, try to tell somebody that they're eating wrong or they're doing something wrong, and you're insulting them, and they want to reach out and smack you. I don't know how you get the awareness out there. Constant public service messages on television, I don't know, that might hit a few people, but that's expensive. I think things like we're doing here in Lewis County are good, but it's more, we're treating more after the fact, like you said. I mean, we're treating the people that have it or have found out that they've got it. We're not doing a hell of a lot yet to prevent it.
I think we need to be in the schools. I think we need to get in there, and maybe if we could start with the kids to teach the parents. We'll have to take it in reverse rather than parents teaching children, because the parents aren't coming to any of the meetings, and we can't go out and grab them off the street, as much as I'd love to a couple of times. But when we get Carter House up and running, there's a possibility of doing a children's cooking class, and possibly more than one age, group age.